You go ahead.
Yeah, don't forget Director Fox at 8:30.
You're muted, just so you guys know. Thank you. Thank you.
Resolved, Board of Directors of the Capital Region Service Commission appoint Amy Boyd effective immediately to the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee, with the term expiring on September 30th, 2026, and appoint Danny Roy to the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee effective September 30th, 2023, with the term expiring on September 30th, 2026.
Second by,
Kevin, that one.
any discussion? No discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, Director Fox. Now, the next motion for the Oversight Committee, Director Bob Powell, please.
I move that the Capital Region Service Commission receive the report of the Oversight Committee.
Second, Dave Morrison.
Any discussion? No discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Director Powell. Move on now to number 9, the committee reports, and it is continued. The Finance Committee, Director Corey, please.
The second of the 3 meetings for the Finance Committee held on August the 17th in attendance from myself, John Stark, Tony Forbes, Kevin Nicklin, Don Fitzgerald, Tim Fox, and Eric Van Eycken. The meeting was called to order at 12. Mr. Smith presented an overview of the budget, and which is attached to this report, provided details on the Regional Service Support Fund, which is the funding mechanism from the province to fund RSC initiatives. This fund will cover up to 50% of costs for specified activities, and the amount that the Capital Region Service Commission is eligible for in 2024 is $1,469,172. Capital Region Service Commission will look to maximize this amount to keep the costs to members down. Part of the strategy to do so is to allocate all of this funding to tourism promotion and economic development, as costs are fixed through MOUs. Ms. Langdon presented the budget for each fund and detailed what is driving the increases or decreases from the previous year's budget. Overall, member charges for the new services will increase by $379,089. For participating members, planning and development charges will increase by $139,840. A tipping fee increase of $2 is recommended for solid waste. Staff responded to questions from the committee members and undertook to analyze how the allocation of the Regional Service Support Fund would impact member changes if it was applied to all services at the request of the committee. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 1 p.m. The committee met again on August 24th. The meeting was called to order at 12 noon. We represented a report on the allocation of the Regional Services Support Fund, which is attached to this report. The percentage of the total budget for new services was used as a revised allocation method for the Regional Service Support Fund, as it removed any discretionary impact while providing the greatest possible variance for individual municipalities. The committee decided that the second revised method of allocating the Regional Service Support Fund would be used for the 2024 budget. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 12:16. I move the board receive the report of the Finance Committee dated September 7th, 2023.
Second by, any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Now, I do believe we're going to move on to the 2024 budget recommendation. Okay.
There's a whole that's going on over here, Mary. You gotta watch.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the budget 2024 for the Capital Region Service Commission. I'm going to turn it over to John, and he's going to provide some opening remarks, and then we'll go through the numbers in detail.
Thank you very much, Mary Kay. Through you, Madam Chair, and the directors. In terms of overall on the budget, we've been very fortunate. The province of New Brunswick came out over the summer with an opportunity for us to maximize investment. And these are the investments that hopefully are offsetting and keeping our overall member share low in terms of contribution. And it's I think that our team has done an exceptional job in terms of putting this together. Yes, you know, like anything, there is a bit of an increase, but the profits came to the table for the region with 1.469 million. And that can offset, we can use that at 50-50 investment dollars. So when we're investing that funding through the streams from the investments that we had made last year and into this year, we can use that to offset what we're using this year. So last year, if you for those that were here and those that are new, if you recall, there was an RSC grant came out right before the budget was allocated, and that was applied across all streams. Tonight's budget and the presentation that Mary Kay and her team and the senior management team put together speaks to how we allocated the Regional Services Support Fund throughout every stream to make it fair and equitable. Earlier, we talked about lobbying the provincial government for funding. The province has been coming consistently to the table when we need them. I have to give them credit where credit's due. To this, you know, to this point, we're doing pretty good. I think as well, what's going to happen is you'll see tonight, there's some of the streams. There are mandated areas in terms of MOUs and obligations where we need to automatically funding is adjusted according to the MOU. Some of the streams, we have a little bit more funding, and that'll be for that planning that some of the members were talking about, to develop those plans and how we live our values moving forward through fiscal responsibility, collaborative governance, equitable outcomes, transparency, and the respect and responsibility. So we're looking at that, and then we move forward, but we need to start somewhere. We have to, you know, year one, as one of my colleagues keeps saying, this is a year where we're going to stub our toe and bang our knees a little bit, and it's going to happen. And, you know, but at the same time, if we do this right, we take a cautious and proactive approach and we implement the streams. We've got some big ticket items. You know, we're out meeting this week talking about the Regional Aquatic Center. You know, there's more, and, you know, there's regional infrastructure, there's, you know, economic development, tourism promotion, the large lift that the Community Development Committee is looking at. And then we bring on again on January 1st, that social mandate, you know, in terms of that with homelessness, poverty reduction, mental health, and we're still continuing it as a backbone with healthcare and physician recruitment. So for the region, so there's a lot on the go, and we want you to understand that. I couldn't tell you how more proud I am of the team for putting together a budget that looks, and when we look at an inflationary increase we're about half the value of inflation right now in terms of what we're using for a number. So I think overall, I'll turn it over to Mary Kay. And I hope you'll see that as we progress, either that or we'll have to reopen that up in Q3 report there. My oversight committee meeting may be a little bit more difficult, but anyway, thank you very much. Mary Kay?
So the budget that's included in your board package tonight is the provincial form, and that is what we will be circulating to the membership if the board does approve that. But what I'm going to take you through tonight is the highlights of that budget. If you do have any detailed questions on this document, though, I'm happy to answer them. So feel free to ask those questions. So the slide that you see in front of you, and I know there's a lot of numbers and I'm standing far away from it, so it's kind of hard to see, but this is a summary of the charges for the new services. So you can see on this side here, that is the different municipalities, and across the top are the different new services that we are providing. So towards promotion and economic development, those charges, the membership is charged based on their share of the tax base only. Which is different because the remaining services from cooperative and regional planning to public safety, the charges are based 50% on the share of the population and 50% on your share of the tax base. So it's a little bit different how those charges are allocated. And they did have a little bit of an impact when we looked at it at the finance committee level, which is why we chose to go with the regional service support fund allocated across all the various divisions. So what you can see is for tourism promotion, if you find your specific municipality, for Arcadia, for example, they would pay for tourism promotion $27,995 and so on for each service, for a total in 2024 of $70,892 versus $63,120 in 2023. So for Arcadia, we have an increase from 2023 of $7,700. And you can see what the increase is in this column here. So the biggest increase obviously would be the city of Fredericton because it's the largest, and that increase would be $210,000 from the previous year. We then looked at the tax base and we said, okay, what does that factor in as a tax rate increase? So for 2024, based on this budget, you can see what the increase in tax rate will be from 2023. The largest one being Tracy, and it's 0.0038 cents. And the smallest one, I believe, is what's under. Sorry, or not, which is 0.0015. So that's the impact that it would have on your tax base for the new services. So we'll get into a little more detail of what's included in each of those different services. So corporate services, these are the expenses of the commission that support the work of all the various divisions. There's no revenue in corporate services, so the expenses are allocated out to the various divisions based on how the division consumes those expenses. So you're going to see a line item in each division's budget that's called allocation from corporate services. And that is the amount that division is paying for their share of corporate services. And during our budget presentation, we really took a tough look at what are the drivers of these costs and try to allocate them accordingly. So you're going to see some fluctuations from 2023 to 2024. Because we've got some experience under our belt. And so we're just refining those drivers as we go forward and allocating them appropriately. So for expenditures in corporate services, we have a budget in 2024 of $90,241 for governance. So that's our board expenses. And the main increase of the $26,000 that you see over to the right on that column is our increase to honorarium. So we're having more board meetings, more committee meetings, they're up and functioning. So we had to increase that for our 2024 budget. Administrative expenses, you do see a large increase there. So for 2024, we're budgeting $1,478,000, which is a $652,000 increase from the previous year, but it's not actually an increase to the commission. So what we did here is we have some employees that were previously solely focused on solid waste services, and they've taken on some additional responsibilities. So what we did is we removed their salaries on the solid waste division, moved them up to corporate services, and then allocated it back based on the time they're spending. So the majority of those salaries are still being charged to solid waste, but they're spending a little bit of time in different services. So that portion of their salary is getting allocated out to the other divisions. So it looks like a large increase, but a lot of that is those employees. We did budget for 2 new employees in corporate services, one on the administration side as well as one on the financial side, just to meet the demand of the work that we are seeing. And then on fiscal services, we have a budget of 12,000. That's up slightly because of the non-refundable portion of our HST. When expenses go up, that goes up as well. So our total budget for corporate services for 2024 is $1,581,000. So the next budget that we'll look at is tourism and motion. And that's a relatively straightforward budget because we do have the MOU with the city of Fredericton. So in the administration expenses of 1.6 million, we have an increase to our corporate service allocation, as we've talked about, that increased by 61,000. And we also have our city of Fredericton MOU for their services that they're providing. That is subject to a CPI adjustment. That's in there. And we've also put a contingency amount in there. So you'll remember at the finance committee, we talked about how we expect to have small deficits in tourism promotion and economic development. We did a very bare bones budget in 2023. We're putting a little contingency in there so we don't run into that in future years. So that's what's leading to the increase of 133,000. On the other revenue side, the 500,000 is the regional services support funding, leaving the 1,122,000 to be funded through membership. So the next budget is economic development. Similar to tourism promotion, it's also has an MOU with Ignite, so the costs are known. So in that 2,344,000, we have an increase to corporate services from the previous year of 61,000. We have the CPI adjustment for the MOU with Ignite, and we also built in that contingency, same as we did with tourism promotion. We also have the companion agreement for the workforce development. So that's why you're seeing an increase. That was 783,000 that is being funded through PEDAL. So there's no cost to the commission. You'll see a corresponding increase in the revenue down below. So the other revenue of 1.5 million, that consists of the PEDAL funding, as I mentioned, of 783,000. And the regional service support fund is 722,000. So when you take the expenses less the other revenue, you come up with 838,000 that would be charged to the membership, which is a decrease from the previous year of 175,000 because of that increase to the regional service support fund. The next one we'll look at is operative and regional planning. So for administration expenses, for cooperative and regional planning, we have a budget of 321,000, which is up 168,000 from the previous year. That is solely related to the allocation from corporate services. So we're looking at where people are spending their time and resources, and this one was one that was understated in 2023, so we've adjusted it accordingly. And we've also put $50,000 in there as an administrative budget for regional planning to give some funds to be able to actually undertake some work in this fund. Our other revenue of 27,500 is our second previous year surplus that came in from 2022, leaving a total of 343,770 to be charged to the members. Community development is an area where we've had a slight change from the previous year. So administration expenses, we have budgeted 337,000. That's up 199,000 from the previous year's budget. Corporate services is up 100,000. We have more corporate service employee time that's going into community development. And we've also budgeted for an additional staff member based on the amount of work that needs to be done with regard to this service. So that's what's driving the increase there. The 104,000 is the amount that's allocated from the regional services support fund. which leaves the 233,462, which is the amount that would be charged to the members for community development. Sport, recreation, and cultural infrastructure. We previously did not do an allocation from corporate services. We hadn't undertaken anything when the budget was done in 2023. So there was nothing in that budget then. We looked at it for 2024. We've allocated 93,365. And we've also put in 75,000 for regional sport, recreation, cultural infrastructure planning and cost sharing, which would allow us to undertake projects, look at infrastructure, that kind of stuff. And then the other revenue of 51,000 is that regional services fund again, which leaves 116,477 to be charged to the members for that service. Regional transportation is the next fund that we'll look at. For administration, we have a budget of 203,000. And that's up slightly from the previous year. And there's a couple things going on there. We've increased the amount from corporate services by 32,000, but we've decreased the amount we budgeted for professional services by 24,000. So that left a cost of 203,000. On other revenue, we've included $50,000 that we expect to receive from ESIP with regard to this, and regional service support fund of 63,000. So the remaining amount that's left to be charged to the membership based on their share of the tax base and population is 90,774. Again, that's a decrease of 47,000 from the previous year's budget. The Public Safety Committee is, when we did the budget in 2023, again, it was an area we didn't know much about, so not much was budgeted. Now that we've got some work underway, we've increased that budget in 2024. So for administration, we've got a budget of 90,986. The increase of 84,000 is corporate services allocation increased by 64,000. And we've increased our professional services budget to 20,000 for public safety. For other revenue, the regional service support fund of 28,000 brings the amount that we would charge the members to just under 63,000 for public safety. So that's all of the new funds, and then we'll get into the funds that we've been doing for a number of years. So the first one we'll look at is the planning and development. So it's important to keep in mind for planning and development that those services are only received by the participating members. So the city of Fredericton, New Maryland, and Normoncton do not receive their planning and development services through us, so they do not pay for this service. Over 70% of the expenditures, as you would expect in this division, consist of salaries and benefits. So they're the major driving factor with regard to this budget. And we are seeing additional demand. And so with that comes the need for more employees. So this budget was built with that in mind. There's one additional employee included in this budget, as well as some staffing changes that the division has undergone. So what does that mean? In 2023, the total amount that the participating members paid was $1,781,000. For 2024, we're proposing that be $1,921,000. That's an increase of just under $140,000 across the participating members. And again, you can see what that means for your specific municipality. So what's included in the planning and development budget? On the administration side, those costs have actually decreased. We budgeted $664,000. And the driving factors behind the decrease is we decreased the amount that they were paying for corporate services by $19,000. And our office expenses went down by $13,000. Our planning and inspection services has a budget of $1,283,000. That's up $216,000 from the previous year's budget. Salaries and benefits being the biggest driver there. Like I mentioned, we do have a new employee budgeted. We also have some staff that are more senior than we did in the previous year's budget. So that led to more increased costs. And then for fiscal services, we had a budget of $29,000. It's down slightly, and the reason for that is we did not have a second previous year deficit that we had to bring in. We had surplus, which helped offset some of the costs. So total expenditure increase for the budget for 2024 was just under 189,000. The other sources of revenue, so we had a second previous year surplus, and we had 7,000 for our blue plate revenue, which left the 1,921,000 to be charged to the participating members for planning and development. So for the solid waste division. So the solid waste division is slightly different in that we don't charge you a set fee. You pay, or the municipalities pay what they bring in tonnage, so that they're charged based on tonnage. So this budget is built based on what we receive in tonnage. And historically, our tonnage has typically been between 79,000 and 81,000 tons. Since COVID, tonnage has consistently gone up to the point where we're comfortable increasing the budget for 2024 to 84,500 tons. About 35,000 municipal tonnage. The remaining 52% come from our ICI sector, or industrial, commercial, and institutional. So 52% of that comes from the business sector. The other thing to keep in mind with regard to solid waste is there's still a lot of uncertainty with PPP. That's not been nailed down yet. We've done our best based on the information we've been told, but until we actually finalize discussions with them, it's an estimate at this point, but we're comfortable that we have been conservative in what we've included in this budget, and that it will not have a detrimental impact if things went a different way. So our tipping fee has been $102 for the past 2 years, in a time where fuel prices have been the highest we've ever paid, and there's been significant inflationary pressures. We were fortunate in 2023 in that we had a large second previous year surplus to bring in. So that allowed us to keep our tipping fee level and not have to increase it. We didn't have as high a surplus to bring into 2024's budget. So that was one of the real pressing reasons as to why we are proposing a tipping fee increase in 2024. So in this budget, we're proposing a $2 increase to $104 per ton. What does that mean? So this is your estimated annual tonnage that the municipalities bring in. And I stress that it is an estimate, especially for those municipalities whose borders have changed. The provincial government has some of that information, and we do our best to come up with what the estimate is, but we don't have specific numbers as to what that is because they've been charging it out to your municipality. So keep in mind that this is estimated and the actuals could be slightly different from what actually comes across the scales and gets charged to the specific municipalities. But a $2 tipping fee increase for Central York amounts to about a $4,000 increase to your budget. Just so you know, so you can find the various municipalities and see what that actually means specifically for you. So on the solid waste side, we have budgeted administration expenses of $1,380,000. That's a decrease of $173,000 from the previous year. And that directly relates to what I told you in corporate services. I said we have some employees that have come out of solid waste, gone into corporate services, and then they're allocated back for some of their salaries and benefits. So corporate services went up $78,000. Our salaries and benefits went down $285,000. So that's what's leading to the decrease there. For our operations, we have an operational budget for solid waste of $7,732,000. That's up from the previous year by $723,000. And the driving factors there is our equipment repairs and maintenance budget was increased by $236,000. We have some pieces of equipment that required some undercarriage work and that kind of stuff, and those costs all add up. Our salaries and benefits on the operational side We've included 3 casuals for our construction season to allow us to construct our cell on time, which previously weren't in there in 2023's budget. We've increased our site maintenance budget for rock that we purchased on the site by $87,000. And we also have a one-time project for our leachate management. There's $140,000 budgeted for a curtain repair. If you want to know more about that, press your back, because that's the extent of my knowledge on that. For fiscal services, we've budgeted $1,179,000. That's down $380,000 from the previous year. And the driving factor there is the amount that we have to contribute to our post-closure fund because of the approved EIA and the amount that now has to be set aside. We're seeing significant savings there. So that's a great news story. So overall, our expenditures on solid waste are up just $170,049. Our other revenue of $6,627,000. That includes the 52% of ICI. So that includes their tonnage at 104. That's why you're not seeing a major decrease in other revenue, because the amount that comes in from ICI is offsetting that second previous year surplus that came in 2023. It's about $478,000 less in 2024 than it was in 2023. So that's made up the difference there. So overall, what that means is we estimate the tipping fee that would be paid from the municipalities would be $3,664,000 based on our estimated tonnage. So on the solid waste, there's also some capital projects that go on each year. We pave around the site, different areas that need it. So we've included $110,000 in our operational budget for site paving. We also have some work that needs to be done at our garbage baling facility, estimated at a cost of $500,000, which would be funded through our capital reserve. We currently have a balance of a little over $2 million in our capital reserve. So that would be funded through there. And then every year we do replace pieces of equipment. Every piece of equipment that we own is on a replacement schedule, and we cycle through. We know how long they typically last, and they get replaced on that cycle. So for 2024, we have 3 pieces of equipment that need to be replaced. We have a rock truck at an estimated cost of $780,000, a compactor at an estimated cost of $1.4 million. Just for a piece of information, the compactor is the most expensive piece of movable equipment that we have at the landfill. So it's very expensive. And then they have a roller at $265,000. So the total amount that we would be borrowing through the Municipal Capital Finance Corporation will be $2,445,000. And the paragraph that you read at the bottom is required MCBV disclosure. When we apply to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board, we have to sign off that we have let the board know what the impact of that borrowing is. So I'll read that for you. The impact of borrowing $2,445,000 for this capital equipment in 2024 is estimated to be $13,500 in 2024 and $599,500 per year for the 5-year term from 2025 to 2029. That amounts to $7.09 on the tipping fee. So in 2025, all things equal, we would expect $7 more. Now, we finance things every year. So every year we have different debentures that are retiring. So we would have a debenture that's retiring in 2024 in the amount of $244,000 in debt payments. So that's going to save you $2.89. So the net impact of this borrowing would be $4.20 on the tipping fee. But it's something to keep in mind because of that expensive compactor that we're borrowing. And then the last budget that we're going to look at is our generation facility. And this is a good news story in that the generation facility is in the best financial position that it's been since its early years of operation. So we're seeing surpluses. We will have 2 new engines by the end of 2023. One was replaced in 2022. The other is set to be replaced in the fall of 2023, which means generally our repairs and maintenance go down for the first couple of years. Our original debenture 10 years ago was paid off in 2023 in June. But for purposes of the budget, we are required under legislation to produce balanced budgets, which means if I expect that this fund is going to generate a surplus, for purposes of the budget, I need to put that surplus to a reserve fund. So at the end of the day, it looks like it's zero. So in this budget, we have budgeted a reserve fund transfer for 2024 of $169,548, which is essentially what I project that the surplus will be, and we'll put it to a reserve fund to balance that budget. But it's been a while since we've been projecting a surplus in this fund, so it's different. So for that budget, we have administration costs budgeted at $63,900. The increase of $43,000 is solely due to corporate service allocation. On the operational side, we've increased the budget to $502,725. We've increased our repairs and maintenance budget by $100,000, even though we do have new engines. It's generally an area where we tend to under budget. So when we had the funds, we put it where the budget needed it. And then fiscal services, we have a budget of $543,000. That's down from the previous year by $72,000. And that's because we are saving on our debt repayments because the original debenture was paid off. We did take a debenture for the first initial engine replacement in 2022, and we will do another smaller debenture for the replacement of the engine in 2023 as well. And that also includes in the fiscal services the transfer of $169,000 to the capital reserve. The other revenue of $10,575 is our second previous year surplus. In 2023, we had to transfer money from our solid waste operating fund in order to balance the budget. That's that $33,000 that you see in 2023. We didn't require that this year because we expect that the fund will have a positive surplus. So that means that we expect to sell power to MB Power in the amount of $1.1 million. And that is the budget. Are there any questions that I can answer at this time?
We'll start with you. We'll go around and then we'll go to the screen. So, Sector People.
Thank you. Thanks for the great presentation and all the information. I do just have one quick question. I know we participated in Arcadia's discussions around this housing accelerator fund and some of the projects that were proposed and that a lot of them are associated with the planning and development area. And does that factor in at all, or it just doesn't come into consideration until it becomes a reality?
Way the housing accelerator fund is worked out, we at planning and development get $0. We don't make any money off of that. We provided that as a service to our members through our senior building inspector and planning department. When that comes into effect and the federal government decides to give you money or not give you money, that money goes directly to you to be used for the item I which you live in.
Okay, so items, I mean, some of the suggestions were made were modernization of permitting and things like that, that would, you know,
That is the cost to me,
yes,
to your bank.
with, okay,
That's something that we were going to do anyway.
okay,
So we're increasing our ability to apply for permits online, to do our inspections online, those types of things. So that's something that we're doing at the department anyway. When we put it down on the list as one of the things for you, that's an easy check off.
okay,
So we check that off. It meets with the requirement of the accelerator fund, and you get money for that, to do some of the things you want to do.
Okay,
So return on your investment.
well, that's a good return. Let's hope the money comes right. Thank you.
Director Powell, do you have any comments or questions?
Can you go around and sort of figure out some things?
Absolutely. Okay, we'll go to the screen. Director Morrison,
No, thank you, Madam Chair, I'm good.
thank you. Director Hart,
No, Madam Chair, I'm good too.
thank you. No. Okay,
No, Madam Chair.
no,
I'm fine.
okay.
Just a blanket thing that I'd like to know. Last year was this many millions. This year is this many millions. What's the increase?
To the expenditure. The bottom, yeah.
Bottom line is everything has gone up. So how much has it gone up? 4, 5, 8, 10, 20%?
So from an expenditure side, last year we had budgeted 16,404,000. This year we have a budget of 18,518. So it's like 2,100,000. That's a 13% increase to our expenditures,
What was the number?
13%.
And the revenue coming in for that 13 to offset that, because you
Yeah,
said. it's
so we
balanced.
have an extra almost 500,000 from the province. And then the remainder will be funded through the membership. For the different, like, so $2 for the tipping fee, 140,000 for planning and development, and that 380,000 for the other new services.
Anything further?
I have to get that around my brain because I have to vote on this, and 13% is a big number. I really wanna delve into the numbers more, because if we're looking at 13% increase, then that's gotta come from somewhere. And not that I'm talking about a little community and rural that I'm responsible for, that don't have a whole lot of money. And we have to increase stuff, so that's where I just need to delve in this a little bit more. I'm either gonna abstain or vote against, I can tell you right now.
Well, tonight, we're not voting.
Good.
We're voting on to, and you'll see it, the motion there is to take it back to our communities.
Because I need to see your PowerPoint presentations, you guys have that, I didn't have.
It's all here. We'll ensure everybody has it.
Yes,
Madam Chair, as a point of process, directors are not allowed to abstain from a vote. In the event that a director abstains, the vote will be recorded as in favor.
You vote no, but until I know that I can make the right thing for my people.
and also it should be noted that tonight is to take, the motion is to take it back to our respectful communities. Like I'll be sharing it with my councils, but also staff, they set up a meeting to have with the CAOs, and they go over the whole budget process
On Monday.
Okay, be on Monday. Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
okay.
I just needed that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Yes,
I'm a numbers guy.
yes, yes. Yeah. Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Yeah, question and a comment. When I'm looking, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for the presentation. It's very insightful. I guess the city of Putnam was a little bit surprised by the increases in new service charges in areas where we haven't committed to any policy or programs or actual expenditures. So I see these as all essentially planning and corporate administration increases. Which leads me to believe that once we start adding services, things like transportation and stuff, then we're going to see the budgets go up even higher, because we'll have actual costs to absorb in the provision of services. We'll just be talking about things around a committee table, or with staff who aren't actually performing anything. And if we did that all this year, I can't imagine that our increase, the overall budget wouldn't be in the 20, 30, or even 40% range. Some of these things can get very expensive. City of Fredericton, our population has grown, our revenues, aren't keeping pace with that. We would have been a lot happier to see in the areas of new services with no programs or services being rolled out, see very modest budgets. And not have to adhere, I guess, as rigidly to the timeline of rolling out services to the community that we seem to be internalizing. We have been downloaded mandates to perform services in a variety of areas. All these areas, I should add, are areas where the province has failed to provide adequate services. So they've given us something that they themselves haven't been able to figure out. We're supposed to figure it out and pay for it. They weren't willing to pay for it. I know how they feel. So I guess we would have been a lot more comfortable to see, those new services charges and the allocation of expenses to some of these things. To very modest levels until we actually have an understanding of what the services are going to look like, because we have to go back to our residents and rationalize this. And it's very difficult to rationalize, large increases in these areas. When we haven't done a lot of the planning work, we haven't done a lot of the conversing around these elements. So those are my high level comments. Thank you again for the presentation.
Did you want to?
Thank
comment, or do you want-
I'll just, through you, Madam Chair,
Yes.
one comment. For all of the services, we have included a base amount of what we could expect the bare bones, like providing a say regional transportation strategy to in that budget. So it's not like we haven't included anything. There's an amount depending on when the committee decides to undertake that, so that we have a budget for 2024. I'm not saying that it's going to be exactly that, but that's the information that we have right now, that we could provide something in 2024 based on the budget that we prepare.
My name, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mary Kay. Also, within that, Deputy Mayor Erickson, in terms of looking at the budget. So I'll back on Mayor Plead or Director Pleadwell, if you will, with infrastructure and within that. Right now, we're undertaking, for example, in that particular area, a study. And the study was an asset inventory with GIS mapping to tell us where everything is. We have something to base future decisions on. We're looking at potentially on the next phase of that. What does that look like? What's that low hanging fruit? The low hanging fruit is all of these facilities, for those who have them, I should say that, sorry. But for everyone that has one, your facilities have programming associated with it. You all have activities around there. How do we transform that and put that out to the public so that they know what's happening? Because we are a region. When we're looking at physician recruitment and retention, and we're looking at healthcare recruitment and retention, those particular families, those individuals, they want to know where they want to live in the region. They may want to be out on a river, out on a lake. They may want to be close to a trail system. They may want to be in a nice community, a small community with, where their schools are located in close proximity to their homes or whatever it may be. But when we're promoting that regionally, that's another asset. But that doesn't come for free. We still have to be able to develop that. We'll work with our partner agencies such as Capital Region Tourism to be able to put some of that together for us, but we still have to bring all that information, put it together, create something and put it out. That's the low hanging piece. Let's look at some of the bigger pieces that are going to come. This inventory is going to help inform our committee leadership to inform the board. One of the things, as you saw in the infrastructure report tonight, is the mandate of what we have to do to look at current and future infrastructure needs. Again, I'm not saying we need oodles of money. There's not oodles, and I don't think there's large amounts of money in there, but we have to be able to participate to inform you as the directors, the decision makers, to be able to make those decisions on how what that looks like moving forward. That might be, some form of sub-regional infrastructure in some of the other areas. That could be looking at a connected trail system all through the region. That could be, a regional aquatic center. And look, I'll tell you, who knows where we're headed, with that, but you'll be the decision, we'll be this board will be that decision makers on how that looks moving forward. But if we can't give you the right information that's validated and stamped and processed by professionals in that area, as much as, the team here is experienced and professional, there's a heavy lift. There's a lot more to just than the mandates, what you see in serving the committees. There's also that background work of what we need to do to put that together. I think Director Bleedwell, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep picking on you, but Director Bleedwell and I had meetings with the CAOs and the LSM and clerks to talk about potential, what would funding mechanisms, what do your communities see? What are those priorities? We have to start having those conversations. But when we look, and I'm looking down and I'm looking at, regional infrastructure, and you look at the overall amount of 90,000. Well, there's a lot of lifting, but there's a lot of benefit if we can continue to promote the region, build and grow the region. I know I don't mean to pick on people, but Director Nicholas' community out there, it's a growth area. It's on fire. It everywhere is in this region because you can't hire people right now. It's darn hard to hire good people. We've been trying and we're struggling with it by times. We know that you would like to have more staff. We're not asking for 25 more staff or doubling the staff or quadrupling. We're looking at like four to five people, hopefully over time, to help implement this. Committee members at the committees are saying, how do you anticipate doing this without having the resources and the tools to even bring forward a valid, qualified, verified proposal to the board? And that's what we want to give you, is that professional service. And we want you to know that when it comes here, it's well thought out. We're looking at partnerships on regional transportation with our city colleagues, putting together maybe a steering committee with some of the other CAOs, maybe even some members. But we need to do these things. But at some point, there are costs associated with doing that. We're trying to keep that cost low. When I said earlier about the budget on that, under all the new streams, you look over the total value. In all fairness, Director Forsyth, you look at it 379,000 versus an $18.5 million budget. You're looking at about 2%. So I know that might be a little rant or a little more information you wanted, but I'm just trying to get you to understand it from where we're coming from to try to give you the best possible services that we can with the best possible options to move forward.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Madam
Just
Chair.
hold your thoughts. I'm going to go to Director Nicklin.
Okay, more so for me as a comment, I'm, whenever there's a budget that comes out, I've seen it at the presentation before. I'm not quite as excited as I am on Christmas morning when I read it, but however, I think we all realize that the services that are provided are great. And the modest increases that we see are okay. And could potentially be handled, but Director Erickson's thoughts here was, I'm quite scared that we're going to come with a 30 or 40% increase when we start adding in transportation and this, and also when that the province decides, okay, we've given them the present long enough, but we're taking away our we're not coming to the table anymore. And then all of a sudden we're stuck with what we decide with no benefit. And then that number is going to really go up quickly. So that's a concern for me, especially in my area. I appreciate you saying we're growing, but at the same point in time, our economy of scale is not quite the same as if we're in Fredericton, and 13% is a pretty big impact for us. 30% is crippling.
Okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, in all fairness, Director Nicklin, I appreciate what you're saying. But I guess I'll just, in terms of that, if we have those good proposals and we have them to the comments that have been around the table, increases, things like that. We've got to get a baseline so that we can set our future budgets. And we've got to get something where we can give you the information and the tools to do it. If we come in, let's pick on regional transportation, for example. We look at regional transportation. We heard, in all fairness from Deputy Mayor Erickson, in all fairness, within that, yeah, there's accessibility, there's other things. But right now, we're still in that very early development stage. The stuff that Brett's researching, that we're looking at, we're trying to find, what does that look like? And what's that most cost efficient way on the delivery model? And how do we bring that forward? And at that point, that's when the rubber's going to hit the road. To the other directors' points, when are we going to start lobbying the province? When are we going to start having those conversations? I'm meeting with my counterparts Southeast and Fundy. And in all fairness, I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, but you know, I'm sure there's people from the province watching. That's part of the conversation we're having too, because they're having that same conversation. But we're saying, how do we get together as, you know, pardon my language, I don't mean to disrespect any of my other colleagues, but as the big three, how do we get together and start promoting those types of questions out there? How do we bring that forward so that we're being proactive? I don't think anybody wants a 30, 40% sticker shock. And that is certainly not the intention of what we want internally in staff. What we want to do, look at those guiding principles and values, take those to heart. I preach on those to staff. I preach on them every meeting. Those mean something to us because those were developed by you. We're here to help move the commission forward and hear your voices. And trust me, I hear fiscal responsibility every time I talk to every member around this table. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I also think that way, but we've got to set a base, Director Nicklin. And then I think we can really move forward with some concrete actionable proposals, or at least something that you can look at and say, here's 3 options. I like option A because it's, it's the most affordable and probably the most pragmatic, and it's our role to give you options to consider. So anyway, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Director Fox?
Yeah, I guess there's only one thing that I'd like to see, and I don't think I saw it in the presentation, but we had one more table that laid out the increase in every portion by community. You should,
Percentage increase, yeah.
well, or the dollar increase year over year of all the services and all of them. But summarizing also the increases in P&D and solid waste. So what say Napa Mobile would have paid total last year versus this year, and maybe it's all right there and I can just do the math, but I thought I noticed other line items in there that.
Yeah, so NACA with no bill, we paid 46,000 last year and 109,000 for planning and development. This year we paid 54,000 and 115, so you've got 6.
Well, these are the total charges to the municipality.
Yeah,
These
so
3.
NACA with no bill, this is your 2024.
Right.
And then this one.
And there's no other.
Is everything.
But fine.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll go to Director Powell.
Okay, our sticker shock for the next year is 11%, just by the way. But I feel that there's some stability in the entire region, and any increases needed should be coming from the province. We respect all the other communities and the local government reform. We understand all that, but there should be enough funding, an additional 20% from the community. In addition to the 20% taken from the community funding and equalization grant format that we already lost from the province. There still needs to be established some value for the money that the service is providing. Prior to local government reform, the town of Waramonta received $578,000 $553 annually in the community funding and the equalization grants. Last year was reduced by the province by 20% to 96,000 to support the local service district there. This year it would be reduced again by another 20%, which means in 2 short years, the town of Ormonto will see a decrease in funding by approximately 230,000 to support the RSCs. In total, between the increased charges and the 27K and the loss of the community funding and equalization grants since the adoption of the local government reform, this will equate to a loss of direct revenue historically used to support initiatives for operation levels and tax-paying citizens of the town of over $500,000 that the town is losing. Now, with all the assessments that the province has put on, all the housing assessments and that, and the money, the millions of dollars they made and the profit they're sitting on, I think the province should come up good to make this, break this, the whole budget clean. That's the town of Ormonto's opinion.
Any comments from my staff? No.
And I'd like to say thank you, Mary Kay, and your staff for the work, because it's a great budget. A lot of work goes on to this. But it's the issues with the province that the town of Ormonto is having with, because they're taking more away and expecting us to do more, and they're not giving us anything to work with. And like I said, I'll stop now before I get myself. So that's.
I haven't thrown anybody out of the meeting yet.
Yeah, but there's a belt up there.
No, yes, but no, you have to wait a minute. I'm gonna go back to Director Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to circle back to the conversation we were having around the new service charges and the increases there. And I certainly want to support the CEO's suggestion that a good deal of that money is for planning, it's for staffing, it's for putting this body in the best position possible to make the best decisions about what new services are going to achieve the new mandates we have. I would have just been more comfortable using our finance committee and the governance process we have for dealing with those increases as they come to us during the year, because that provides us as directors more oversight about each specific service, puts us in a better position to deliver fiscally responsible outcomes, in my opinion, to deal with these things, kind of one at a time as they come forward, instead of having pots of money waiting just in case. Like, my residents are not in a position where they can fund just in case expenditures right now. And I'd like to be in a position, to talk about them, to really interrogate, the new services as they come before us, to see if they really meet the need of achieving the mandate and also satisfy the other values and principles that we're using to do the governance work. But I don't know exactly how much money I'm talking about right now, because it hasn't been broken down into the line items that will allow me to determine, what elements of those are responsible for administrative increases in order to help facilitate planning, and what is, in your terminology, in bucket for just in case we have to perform a service coming to us.
This document's really good too, because it's much more detailed than the presentation tonight, so you can see exactly what's included in administration, exactly what's included in operational, so you can see the various changes in the line items with the classifications that the province gives us. So that might be helpful.
Okay, do you want to speak? And then I'll-
Just quickly, I guess, Deputy Mayor Erickson, are you saying that we would look to do in-year raising of funding? So we wait on something proposed, and then we use a smaller amount, develop a proposal, maybe, and depending on how it would work. And you're saying it when we come to an action, that's when to raise the funding for it, or is that? I'm just a little confused, because we have to budget for the next year, and we don't have another. My understanding is I don't think we have another kick at the cat in order to try to put a budget together that will allow to have that level of seed funding to support what's happening currently. again, there's most likely gonna be needs there for assessments and valuations and studies and whatever we may need to do. I'm not looking to, by the way, spend a lot. I'm the cheapest guy you'll ever meet in terms of that. I want you to know, I squeak some days, I'm so tight. But the other side of that coin, and in all fairness, I'm just trying to understand, like, we're trying to set a budget that, in which we can operate, plan, research, develop, bring forward the options. But if we don't have funding for 2024, that's going to be a very difficult task. Unless everybody's taxing their CAOs and clerks and everything to do more, and from what I'm hearing, everybody is stretched to the limit. I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to understand where that's.
I can help you with that. Then you wait till 2025.
I'd like to say something, or he's up next.
Director Kidwell. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will say Arcadia does not want to spend more money. And if I asked everyone to nod here, I don't think anybody would argue that they want to spend more money. But I'll talk about a Darwinian theory, and it has to do with why small fish come together in school. It's so larger fish don't either compete with them or eat them. Why that's important is because I believe this board around this table gives us a lot of agency and power as a group to do those things that we're talking about here tonight. That concerns that I hear in the committee reports, that I would hear from my committee on regional infrastructure about the downloading of responsibilities and the new mandates that we're given. I'll just put that to one side. There's concerns with that. But in order to combat those concerns, I am comfortable with increases because that gives me expertise and information from which to do that battle. And I'll call it a battle to use our agency so we can compete and we can lobby and we can use this agency together to continue, not to see those dollars slip away, those nice little gives from the province to get us $1 million here or $500,000 there, is to prevent that 40% increase, to prevent that 30% increase. It's use our agency to make sure that doesn't happen. Use that together to the Capital Regional Service Commission, who's landed upon all these different mandates as other commissions across the province have as well. Well, we have a say. We have a say. Let's use our say. But let's do it with information. Let's do it with the staff here. Let's do it with these budgets. Make sure we get the information. Make sure we get the experts and come prepared. And come prepared right now because these mandates are happening. I see it over and over again in these reports and different pieces of legislation. The minister has power to do this. The minister has power to do that. I believe we have a little bit of power. Let's use it, but within information. Thank you.
Director Martin.
Something that Director Erickson said. The government has tried to do all these, and they haven't done it. The last 2 years, it's almost $1 billion in surplus. $1 billion, almost very close to $1 billion, not 100,000. That's closer to $1 billion than $500 million. Right now, I'll go to our strategic plan. You wanted to be first out of the gun. Okay, we did that. We got that first out of the gun. We do not need to get every mandate that they brought in under this government reform, where they've already changed the minister, they've already changed the deputy. So them birds have to get online with what's going on. So more stuff's gonna come out at us this year. I think we should be pushing or looking forward to 2025. Because I asked my CAO, who's a government employee, because we have 16 different tax rates. My gut feeling is they're gonna make one, which is really not good as far as I'm concerned about that. She says it's not happening, but I don't know. And they have it's great that we're gonna do everything that they want us to do, but we don't have to right now. I don't think we have to right now. if we can plan for it. But the dollars and cents, let's get some money from them. I mean, showing off a surplus of $2 billion. And then you have hospitals that need equipment that they won't buy or even sign off on. And go into the schools. I have a teacher friend that I know at a Assiniboine school that was 46 degrees all this week. Them schools in Oromocto were built when Oromocto was built. So I think we're jumping the gun, to be perfectly honest, and that's why I said that 11, like, I'm a numbers guy, you said 11%. I'm gonna go with what you said, told me, right? So that to me, they've got money. They best start spending it if they want us to do what they can't do. And we probably can get it done. Right? But work together and throw some of that surplus money. Instead of your back pocket, give it to people that actually need it. So to me, it may be a rant or whatever, but all I know is, and I've said it before, we have almost $1 billion in tax rate that they want to get at some of it. Well, the little person that has a house down in rural or Charlton, stuff like this place, they're happy as clams that they're there. That's why they built down there. They don't need to be coming with us, giving them a whole bunch of tax rates. So that's where my defense is. And I don't usually get involved with politics. No, my wife said I couldn't get involved in politics, but she had no problem with me being on the rural community because it's where we live. Right? It's not municipal. I mean, not provincial, it's municipal. So I'll have to delve further into the numbers, but my gut feeling says, look out for the boot that's going to be hitting you in the ass.
Do you want to comment?
I would just say, in all fairness to the province, Director Forsyth, I mean, 1.469, so that, in terms of million, in terms of looking at that in an investment. We have, every time we've gone and we've asked, we found some partnership in some way, whether it was for development of the strategic plan, whether that was for other plan, things that we were doing. The asset inventory that we're doing under infrastructure. You know what I mean? When we're there and we're saying, hey, we need a handout, not a handout, but you know what I mean? We need some support on this. We found a willing dance partner. I don't think that's going away. I just think we've got to get a plan with our strategic, that's lines with our strategic plan to bring forward based on, as Director Pleadwell said, information and evidence. And I think that's how we achieve that.
I said it one of the meetings, and I probably stopped the whole vote when I said it, that the strategic plan is a working document.
Exactly.
A budget is a working document.
Exactly.
But when we're going to ask for something from the government, we should be asking for more money. Simple thing, if I know I need 500,000, if I ask for 750 and I get 750, then I can put it to other places. Ask for what we really need, because the plan that you have is right. You're asking for more money, but we gotta ask them for more money. That's if you're looking to get $1 million from them, ask for 1.5.
Makes sense.
They got $1 billion of it that they saved.
Director Mellon.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of conversation here. I like the idea. I know we have to stand up. And I think probably lobbying down the road is something we're going to have to do. But I do realize that, we've got a budget on the table and we're going to take that back to, council. But we can't vote on a budget and leave it open-ended, like, you know what I mean? When we vote on a budget, it has for the budget for the year. We can't open on different projects as it goes on. We can't budget like that. It has to be done as a budget for the year. See, so I know where we're coming from, but I know it's a lot of money, but I do agree with you guys on this table, everybody on this table, that we need to somehow lobby the government for the money. That was hope.
For especially the small community, I'm with the small community we're going, from Dundee Junction. And we don't have a lot of dollars to throw around. So it's quite a thing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, and I do believe everyone's had a ample opportunity to speak. Not yet,
Okay.
I'm getting to it. I got it right in front of me.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank staff member Mary Kay and your other staff for putting this together and doing the presentations. We certainly enjoyed listening to you. Now, we have a motion on the floor by Director Corey, please.
And I won't speak to it. This is all. I move that the board forward the proposed draft of 2024 budget and proposed borrowings to members of the Capital Region Service Commission that are municipalities and to the rural district and to the minister in accordance with section 28 of the Regional Service Delivery Act for their review. And that the chair shall call a special meeting of the board for Thursday, October 26, 2023, to consider the draft budget in accordance with section 27 of the Regional Service Delivery Act.
Second,
Tim Fox.
any discussion?
Should we include the minister yet? Should we not get some consensus from the board on the draft budget before we send it to the minister?
Madam Chair. So what will happen as a result of this, excuse me, as a result of this vote is that the staff will forward the budget to the communities. And the minister is the de facto mayor of the unincorporated areas. So there's no decision as to support, community support of this. This is strictly administrative decision. Here's the budget, review it, and be prepared to vote on the 27th. When that happens in the 27th of October, the budget passes, then we forward it to all the communities. This is the budget that's coming forward, and we forward it to the minister at that time as well.
So the minister's aspect is just for the rural districts.
That's correct.
At this point in time.
That's correct.
Okay.
And just to correct it, it's Thursday, October 26th.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, Don, oh, sorry, Don, I believe there's a review for comment on this, if it's distributed. The 15-day.
15 days to reply.
Communities have 45 days to decide how they're going to vote. Our bylaws provide that if community is going to offer an amendment to the budget proposal, that they have to provide, they have to tell the board secretary 15 days from today, so that we can circulate the amendments so the communities can consider them as well.
Yes,
I know this goes without saying, but I can't help myself. When we ask the province for money, it's not their money. It's the money
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
of our residents.
With respect, there's a motion on the floor. So
yes. So no further discussion on that.
But I still have to take this to my CEO and council,
Oh, yes,
so it's hard for me to vote.
this is just to take it there. Take it. Take it. Yeah.
Clear it up.
Okay, no further discussion. Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Thank you. Now I need a motion to adjourn. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.